Hello, and welcome back to History Reborn AI. When a dynasty dies, what happens to the women left inside its walls? Royalty, prisoners, or the last ghosts of an empire? Inside China's final imperial harem, beauty was never simple glory. It was a mask laid over loneliness, over decaying power, over lives sealed inside old paintings, black and white photographs, and whispered palace legend. Today, we bring 20 of these faces back, using artificial intelligence. Stay until the end, because the final face on this list is one history has never truly let go of. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Number 20. A dying dynasty once watched an emperor break for a single face. Consort Donggo lived a short life in the earliest years of the Qing dynasty, favored above all others by the young Shunji emperor. Court paintings believed to show her, dressed in 17th century Manchu court silk. Allow her face to return today, though scholars warn how uncertain that likeness remains. The public remembers a beloved consort whose death shattered an emperor's composure. The colder truth is quieter. Love inside the palace was never only love. It carried ritual, envy, and the cold judgment of history. She needed no throne to be remembered. She only needed an emperor who could not forget her face. Number 19. Behind every powerful son, history often erases the woman who carried him first. Empress Xiaokangzhang lived in the opening decades of the Qing dynasty, mother of the future Kangxi emperor, one of the greatest rulers China would ever know. Formal court portraits and ceremonial Manchu robes, preserved in palace archives, allow her face to be rebuilt through artificial intelligence. The public remembers a royal mother standing behind a golden reign. The darker truth is that her son's glory swallowed her own story whole. She gave the dynasty its future, yet her private life shrank into a single maternal role. The world remembers Kangxi as a legend. Before that legend, a mother nearly vanished into the shadows of the palace. Number 18. A portrait painted in calm can still hide a coming storm. Empress Xiaoqianchun lived in the early 19th century, Empress consort of the Daoguang Emperor and mother of the Xianfeng Emperor, whose reign would open the darkest chapter of the Qing dynasty. Ceremonial court portraits from the Daoguang era preserve enough detail for her reconstruction. The public remembers a dignified empress, honored mostly through her role as a royal mother. The colder truth is that she belonged to a generation standing at the edge of a century, about to collapse, though she did not live to witness it fall. Her image was fixed in peace. Her bloodline would sit on the throne exactly as the storm began to rise. Number 17. Perfection painted onto silk can still be the coldest mask of all. Empress Xiaoxianchun lived in the early 18th century, the first empress of the Qianlong Emperor. Remembered through the golden height of Qing court portraiture, detailed imperial paintings from the Qianlong court preserve her likeness clearly enough for artificial intelligence to bring her back. The public remembers a flawless empress, deeply mourned by an emperor who never stopped grieving her. The darker truth is that perfection in a court painting is often the most beautiful cage of all, preserving ceremony while erasing every private fracture. Qianlong kept her image forever, but that image also froze her into a standard that never had to breathe. Number 16. Some faces were painted only to be admired, never to be known. Imperial noble consort Huixian lived during the height of the Qianlong era in the 18th century, one of the emperor's high-ranking consorts. Surviving court portraits from the Qianlong collection allow her reconstruction today. The public remembers a dignified consort from an empire still standing at its peak. The colder truth is that higher rank meant less privacy. In her portrait, she sits motionless, folded into ceremony like a piece of the palace itself. She was elevated near the summit of the harem, yet her short life gave little time to step outside that frame. The palace gave her a title. Time gave her only a narrow space to live inside it. Number 15. Gold and silk can bury a woman more completely than any grave. Imperial noble consort Chunhui lived through the Qianlong era of the 18th century. Remembered through one of the most striking surviving court portraits of her time. Her full-length ceremonial painting, rendered in imperial robes, provides the foundation for her return through artificial intelligence. The public remembers her preserved in the official splendor of Qing power. The darker truth is that the more radiant a portrait becomes, the harder it is to see the fear, loneliness, or exhaustion of the woman underneath. Her story is smaller than her image ever suggested. The painting made her magnificent. Magnificence was never the same thing as being seen. Number 14. Legend gave her a fragrance that history can no longer confirm. Consort Rong, tied for generations to the legend of the so-called fragrant concubine, lived during the 18th century Qianlong court, her frontier origins wrapped in mystery and myth. Portraits believed to depict her, blending Manchu court dress with Western frontier influence, allow her reconstruction, though tradition claims far more about her than history can prove. The public remembers an exotic beauty carried into the heart of empire. The colder truth touches identity, conquest, and a woman placed at the center of imperial desire. They remember the fragrance of legend. What may be more real is the isolation of a woman caught permanently between two worlds. Number 13. Patience, not beauty, was her true weapon. Consort Ling, later honored as Empress Xiaoxianchun, lived through the 18th century Qianlong era as mother of the future Jiaqing emperor. Her image, preserved among the Qianlong court's official consort portraits, allows artificial intelligence to rebuild her face today. The public remembers a quiet consort whose greatest legacy arrived through her son's succession to the throne. The darker truth is that rising inside the harem was rarely luck. It demanded years of silent observation, careful survival, and buried emotion. She never sat upon the throne herself. But once her son did, the entire palace was forced to remember her name at last. Number 12. History remembers the loud voice and forgets the steady one beside it. Empress Dowager Ci'an lived through the mid to late 19th century, one of two regents ruling after the death of the Shenfeng emperor. Surviving court portraits and archival palace records from the era of joint regency provide the basis for her reconstruction. The public remembers a calm dowager standing quietly in another woman's shadow. The colder truth is that history prefers spectacle to silence, and her composure left her far less known than her infamous co-regent. She held equal power at the summit of the empire. Yet history let another woman's shadow fall permanently across her face. Number 11. Not every beauty in the palace was allowed to become a legend. Imperial noble consort Jin, often called Consort Ling, lived through the mid-19th century as a consort of the Xianfeng emperor. Surviving illustrations and court portraiture from the Xianfeng era, though requiring careful verification, provide material for her reconstruction. The public remembers a beloved and elevated consort, later overshadowed by far more famous names surrounding her. The darker truth is that inside a crumbling dynasty, beauty alone rarely guaranteed remembrance. She stood close to power, yet history gave her little of its light. Not every woman in the harem became a myth. Some simply vanished quietly beneath the footsteps of someone louder. Number 10. One face became the mirror an entire dynasty was forced to look into. Empress Dowager Cixi lived from the mid-19th into the early 20th century, ruling China's final decades as its most powerful and controversial woman. Photographs, painted portraits, and extensive court records allow one of the most detailed reconstructions in this countdown. The public remembers a mysterious, fiercely debated dowager, viewed as the symbol of the Qing dynasty's decline. The colder truth is that she became a screen onto which history projected every fear about a collapsing empire. She ruled for decades, yet her image never escaped its political mask. People still ask if the empire was already dying before her eyes ever met a camera. Number 9. Youth inside these walls rarely belonged to itself. Empress Xiaoxianchun lived through the mid-1800s as the young empress of the Tongji Emperor, her fate darkening sharply after his early death. Surviving court portraits from the late 19th century Qing court preserve the details needed for her return. The public remembers a solemn young empress trapped between palace ritual, a powerful dowager, and a dynasty already fading. The darker truth is that her youth was consumed entirely by ceremony, leaving almost no room for private feeling. She carried a title of great honor, yet titles inside that palace could also become the coldest kind of lock. Number 8. She did not build the collapse. She simply had to sit through it. Empress Dowager Longyu lived from the mid-19th into the early 20th century. Present at the exact moment the Qing dynasty came to its end. Surviving photographs and court portraits from this final era provide material for her reconstruction. The public remembers a last dowager seated inside a palace whose imperial weight had nearly disappeared. The colder truth is that she inherited an ending she never created, forced to preside over an inevitable transfer of power. In the old photographs, her eyes carry something between authority, fear, and exhaustion. She did not destroy the empire. She was the woman left behind when its final door quietly closed. Number 7. She watched the Forbidden City from both inside its walls and outside its century. Princess Yuling lived from the late 19th into the mid-20th century, not a consort herself, but a woman living remarkably close to the inner court, later famous for her memoirs of Cixi's palace. Photographs, court images, and her own written testimony allow a rich reconstruction of her face. The public remembers a Manchu woman touched by the West, serving as translator inside the dying court. The darker truth is that her position let her see an entire world quietly closing its own doors. She belonged to the old court and to the modern world watching it. Her gaze belonged to both and to neither. Number 6. While one sister became legend, another simply had to keep living. Consort Jin, later known as Dowager Consort Donggo, lived from the late 19th into the early 20th century. Elder sister of the far more famous Consort Zhen. Surviving photographs from the final Qing era, alongside records from Puyi's small remaining court, allow her reconstruction. The public remembers the sister who survived longer and was far less romanticized. The colder truth is that if her sister became a tragic young myth, Consort Jin was left behind to watch an empire fade into meaninglessness. Her old photographs show quiet composure. Behind that composure sat decades of watching a once mighty dynasty become nothing more than a memory. Number 5. Some faces are remembered less for who they were than for what they were never allowed to become. Consort Zhen, known widely as the Pearl Concubine, lived from the late 19th century until the year 1900, favored consort of the Guangxu Emperor during his failed push for reform. Photographs attributed to her, though some contested, allow her reconstruction. The public remembers a beloved young consort tied to a modern spirit inside an ancient court. The darker truth is that she represented change trapped inside walls, terrified of it. She loved what was new. She lived inside a court that feared its own future. In modern memory, she became the face of everything the dynasty was too late to save. Number 4. She became the one who chose to walk out of the cage. Wenxiu, also known as Consort Shu, lived from the early 20th century into the 1950s, a consort of the last emperor, Puyi, remembered for a decision no consort before her had dared to make. Clear photographs from the fall of the dynasty provide strong material for her reconstruction. The public remembers a former consort who walked away from a royal title once the throne had become only a shadow. The colder truth is that even without an empire left to protect her, ritual could still shrink a life into a smaller room. Artificial intelligence does not only rebuild a face here, it rebuilds the moment a woman finally saw a door out of history. Number 3. By the time she arrived, the throne itself had become a rumor. Tan Yuling lived from 1920 to 1942, tied to Puyi during the era of Manchukuo, the puppet state built from the ashes of the old dynasty. Photographs and surviving Manchukuo-era records allow her reconstruction. The public remembers a young woman entering Puyi's life once the imperial title carried no empire behind it. The darker truth is that her noble title sounded like a fairy tale, yet the world she entered was controlled by far larger forces than any crown. She carried an old title into a world that had stopped believing in old titles. History gave her a name from a vanished empire, and nothing left to rule. Number 2. She is remembered less as a beginning than as an ending. Li Yuqin lived from 1928 into the early 21st century, becoming Puyi's wife much later, long after the imperial system had collapsed. Photographs from her youth and her later life allow her reconstruction. The public remembers her as the so-called last consort connected to China's final emperor. The colder truth is that this title carried no real power inside it. only the cold outline of a vanished past. People are drawn to the woman standing at history's final punctuation mark for an imperial system. She was not the beginning of a legend. She was the small, quiet period at the end of thousands of years of palace history. Number 1. She wore the oldest title in the empire at the exact moment that title lost its soul. Empress Wanrong, the last empress of China, lived from 1906 to 1946, married to Puyi, the final emperor of the Qing dynasty. A wealth of surviving photographs make her one of the most vivid reconstructions in this countdown. The public remembers an elegant young empress caught between an ancient world and a modern one crashing against its gates. The darker truth is that her title arrived as the throne lost nearly all its meaning, its glory reduced to the last coat of paint on a rotting room. She had photographs like a modern woman, yet her fate stayed locked inside an old imperial cage. She was the last empress. Her photographs preserved something quieter than power, a beauty slowly disappearing. Thank you for watching History Reborn AI. If one face from this final Imperial Harem made history feel colder to you, we would love to know which one, and we will see you in the next story.